The 𝗕𝗲𝘀 reveled in the hunt. Their latest victory feast echoed through the grand halls of the Obsidian Maw, their flagship. 𝗕𝗏𝘀 the Unbroken, his scarred exoskeleton gleaming under the blood-red light of the nebula, raised a chalice made from the skull of his last kill. The galactic elite watched through holographic feeds, eager for the next spectacle. Another hunt, another slaughter, 𝗕𝗏𝘀 growled, mandibles clicking in amusement. None have escaped. None have fought back. The weak perish. This is the way. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀 were apex predators, engineered by evolution and arrogance. Their claws could rend steel. Their reflexes outpaced most species' thoughts. They had turned hunting into a sport, dragging prey from across the galaxy to their game world, Zeta-9, and butchering them for entertainment. The Galactic Council's records listed humans as Class 2 prey. No claws. No venom. No hardened carapace. Just soft flesh and slow reflexes. When the 𝗕𝗲𝘀 demanded humans be added to the hunt, the Council barely objected. "They'll die quickly," one ambassador sighed. 10 humans were dumped onto Zeta-9. No weapons. No armor. Just the clothes on their backs. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀 expected screams, panic, a desperate scramble for hiding spots. They got silence. The humans didn't run. They didn't cower. They spread out like shadows, vanishing into the dense jungle within seconds. The lead hunter, 𝗕, snarled in irritation. Pathetic. They think hiding will save them. **𝗕𝗏𝘀 watched from orbit, grinning. Let them think they have a chance. It makes the kill sweeter. **𝗕 tracked the first human, a male, unarmed, crouched near a riverbank. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀 lunged, claws extended for a clean decapitation. The human moved faster. A rock, sharpened to a jagged edge, slammed into 𝗕's primary eye. The hunter shrieked, recoiling as the human drove the makeshift blade deeper, twisting before darting away. 𝗕 stumbled, roaring in pain and fury. The feed flickered as the galactic audience gasped. 𝗕𝗏𝘀's grin faltered. "Lucky strike," he muttered. But the doubt had already taken root. No prey had ever fought back before. And this was only the beginning. The humans didn't just survive, they adapted. While the 𝗕𝗲𝘀 expected mindless flight, they found instead a chilling, methodical resistance. The jungle became a weapon. The first trap was simple, a pit lined with sharpened stakes, hidden beneath a lattice of woven vines. When a hunter charged through the undergrowth, the ground collapsed beneath it. The fall didn't kill it. The poison smeared on the spikes did. Galactic audiences watched in stunned silence as the humans' handiwork played out. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀's exoskeletons were impervious to most blades, but their joints were vulnerable. Their eyes were unprotected, and they had never faced prey that turned the environment against them. The second hunter died screaming, its lungs filling with fluid after brushing against a seemingly harmless plant, one the humans had identified, harvested, and refined into a contact toxin. The third was less fortunate. It followed a trail of disturbed earth, only to trigger a snare that yanked it into the air, leaving it dangling as a human emerged from the shadows and drove a splintered bone into its throat. 𝗕𝗏𝘀's amusement curdled into fury. This wasn't sport. This was humiliation. "Enough," he snarled, his voice cutting through the command deck. No more tracking. No more games. Burn them out. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀 abandoned their rituals. Hunters moved in packs, torching sections of the jungle to flush the humans into the open. It should have worked. It would have, against any other species. But the humans didn't run from the fire. They used it. A group of hunters pursued a lone figure into a narrow canyon, their bloodlust blinding them to the scent of methane seeping from the rocks. The human vanished around a bend. Then the spark came, a flicker of metal on stone, a single flare of ignition. The explosion ripped through the canyon, turning hunters into charred husks. The shock wave rattled observation drones, sending the galactic feeds into static. When the smoke cleared, the humans were gone. 𝗕𝗏𝘀's claws dug into the armrest of his throne. His hunters were dying. Not to superior strength, not to advanced weaponry, but to tricks. To traps. To things that should have been beneath 𝗕𝗲𝘀 notice. The audience was no longer cheering. They were whispering. And for the first time in centuries, the 𝗕𝗲𝘂 felt fear. The jungle had become a graveyard. 𝗕𝗲𝘂 corpses lay strewn across 𝗕𝗲𝘃's terrain, their once proud forms broken by crude weapons and brutal efficiency. The remaining hunters moved like ghosts now, their confidence shattered. They no longer roared challenges, they crept, they hesitated. The prey had become the predator. Only 3 humans remained. A grizzled Marine with a limp, his uniform stained with alien blood. A biologist who had turned local flora into chemical weapons. And a teenager, barely more than a child, who spoke in hushed, furious tones about circuits and frequencies. They were wounded, exhausted, outnumbered. And yet, the 𝗕𝗲𝘂 feared them. 𝗕𝗏𝘀 could no longer watch from orbit. His empire's reputation was crumbling with every death. The galactic feeds, once filled with cheers, now broadcast murmurs of disbelief. The mighty 𝗕𝗲𝘂, brought low by creatures they had dismissed as weak? Unthinkable. He descended to the surface, his war rig hissing as it locked around his limbs. This ended now. He found the Marine first. The human stood in a clearing, waiting. No traps. No tricks. Just a knife in one hand, a stolen 𝗕𝗲𝘂 pulse grenade in the other. 𝗕𝗏𝘀 snarled, charging forward, only for the Marine to smile. A cracked, bloody smile. The detonation lit up the sky. 𝗕𝗏𝘀 survived. Barely. His armor was scorched, his carapace split open in places. He staggered from the blast radius, his vision swimming. The Marine was gone, reduced to atoms. But the grenade hadn't been meant to kill him. It had been a distraction. While 𝗕𝗏𝘀 reeled, the biologist struck. A dart, launched from the 𝗕𝗲𝘃, buried itself in the gap between his armor plates. Fire raced through his veins. He bellowed, clawing at the wound, but the toxin worked fast. His muscles locked. His vision blurred. He collapsed to his knees, his body betraying him. The teenager emerged then, clutching a scavenged 𝗕𝗲𝘂 communicator. Wires spilled from its casing, jury-rigged into something else entirely. Small hands worked with desperate precision. "You wanted a hunt," the kid spat, fingers flying over the device. Asterisk. "But you forgot something." Asterisk. A click. A hum. A signal, piercing through the interference. The sky split open. A human warship tore through the atmosphere, its guns glowing hot. The 𝗕𝗲𝘂 fleet, still orbiting in smug superiority, scrambled to react, too late. The Terran vessel locked onto their flagship, its weapons humming to life. 𝗕𝗏𝘀, paralyzed in the dirt, could only watch as his empire's might crumbled before his eyes. The prey had called for reinforcements. And humanity had answered. Silence gripped the observation decks across the galaxy as the Terran battleship's cannons found their mark. The 𝗕𝗲𝘂 flagship, a symbol of invincibility for generations, ruptured along its spine, atmosphere venting into the void in a frozen scream. Escape pods jettisoned in panic, but the humans weren't interested in prisoners. Not yet. On the surface, 𝗕𝗏𝘀's body still burned with poison, his mandibles twitching uselessly as the teenage engineer stood over him, the reprogrammed communicator clutched in bloodied hands. The biologist emerged from the 𝗕𝗲𝘃, a fresh dart already loaded. No words were exchanged. None were needed. The galactic feeds flickered as the human warship deployed drop pods. Not reinforcements, cleanup crews. Armored figures in blackened plating fanned out across 𝗕𝗲𝘃, securing the remaining 𝗕𝗲𝘂 hunters with brutal efficiency. These weren't desperate survivors. These were professionals. A transmission cut through every channel, raw and unfiltered. The voice that spoke wasn't the polished tone of a diplomat. It was the rasp of a soldier who'd seen too many battlefields. Asterisk, 𝗕𝗲𝘂 High Command. You have 1 hour to surrender your hunting worlds and disband your fleets. Refuse, and we glass your home world. Asterisk. A pause. Asterisk, try us. Asterisk. The council chambers erupted. Species who had watched the hunts for entertainment now scrambled to distance themselves. Emergency sessions were called. Treaties were shredded. The 𝗕𝗲𝘂 ambassadors, once so arrogant, could only stare at the feeds in horror as their empire unraveled in real time. 𝗕𝗏𝘀 was dragged aboard the human vessel in chains, his body still racked with tremors from the toxin. They forced him to watch as the first human boots touched down on the 𝗕𝗲𝘂 homeworld. No grand invasion. No protracted siege. Just a single dropship, doors sliding open to reveal the biologist and the engineer standing flanked by Terran Marines. The message was clear. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀 surrendered within 43 minutes. Hunting preserves were dismantled. Captives were freed. The galaxy watched as the humans did something unimaginable. They showed mercy. Not weakness. Never weakness. The kind of mercy that comes from absolute, unquestionable dominance. In the end, it wasn't the weapons that broke the 𝗕𝗲𝘀. It wasn't the ships or the tactics. It was the realization, slow and terrible, that they had never been the apex predators. They'd just been the loudest. As the last 𝗕𝗲𝘀 war banners were torn down, a new transmission spread across the stars. Just 5 words, broadcast in every known language. Asterisk, the hunt is over. Adapt. Asterisk, and the galaxy did. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀 homeworld surrender wasn't the end, it was the beginning. The galaxy had witnessed something impossible, and the shockwaves spread faster than warp travel. Council archives scrambled to update their files, deleting Class 2 beside humanity's name. New classifications appeared overnight. Asterisk, do not engage. Extreme threat potential. Predator species protocol. Asterisk, humanity didn't occupy the 𝗕𝗲𝘀 worlds. They didn't need to. The mere presence of Terran warships in orbit was enough. Former hunting grounds became rehabilitation centers. Freed species slowly nursed back from the brink of extinction. The humans didn't ask for gratitude. They didn't demand tribute. Their silence was more terrifying than any proclamation. Korvax, stripped of his armor and title, sat in a cell aboard a Terran vessel. They didn't torture him. They didn't interrogate him. They simply showed him recordings, every hunt, every slaughter, every moment his kind had reveled in cruelty. Then they left him alone with the screams. The teenager who had brought down his empire visited once. No taunts. No gloating. Just a datapad slid across the table, displaying casualty reports from Zeta 9. You killed 6 of us, the kid said quietly. Asterisk, we killed 300 of you. That's not a hunt. That's an extermination. Asterisk. The message reached every corner of known space. Humanity's patience had limits. Their mercy was a choice, not a weakness. And their wrath. That was mathematical. Inevitable. When the first 𝗕𝗲𝘀 war criminals were handed over to the species they had hunted, the galaxy held its breath. There were no executions. No vengeance. Just justice, cold and precise. The victims decided the fate of their tormentors, and humanity enforced the sentences without flinching. Trade routes reopened. Diplomacy resumed. But the rules had changed. The Council's new charter included a single, non-negotiable clause: no species shall be prey. The humans didn't attend the signing ceremony. They didn't need to. Their shadow stretched across every line of the document. On the anniversary of Zeta 9, a monument was unveiled on Terra's capital world. Not a statue of soldiers or warriors. A simple stone slab, engraved with the names of the 10 humans who had been dropped onto that planet. 6 crossed out. 4 remaining. Beneath the names, a single phrase in every known language. Asterisk, we remember. Asterisk, the galaxy learned to remember too. The monument stood silent under Terra's twin moons, its polished surface reflecting starlight like liquid obsidian. They called it the weight of names, 10 etched in steel, 6 scorched black where plasma torches had burned them away. No grand speeches marked its unveiling. No politicians draped it in banners. Just 4 survivors standing motionless before the slab as wind whispered through the surrounding fields of white ash blossoms. The biologist touched one unmarred name, *Liang-J*, and walked away. The engineer remained longest, fingers tracing circuitry patterns absent-mindedly across the memorial's base before vanishing into the crowd. Galactic observers noted the lack of ceremony with unease. This wasn't how victorious empires behaved. There should have been parades. Triumphal arches. The thunder of gun salutes. Humanity's silence was more unsettling than any show of force. Deep in the Orion Arm, 𝗕𝗲𝘀 survivors gathered in the ruins of their hunting lodges. Their claws, once sharpened for sport, now trembled around mining lasers as they worked Terran-mandated restoration quotas. None resisted. None dared. The few who tried had learned. Human oversight came in the form of silent drones that hovered just beyond peripheral vision, their weapon apertures never quite closing. On the edge of council space, a 𝗦𝗲𝘀𝘀 scavenger clan discovered the wreckage of a 𝗦𝗲𝘀 escape pod. Inside, they found a single data crystal containing security footage from 𝗦𝗲𝘀-9, uncensored, unedited. Within hours, it had spread across the darknets. Galactic citizens watched with mounting horror as grainy footage showed a human marine dragging a wounded 𝗦𝗲𝘀 hunter from a burning thicket instead of finishing it. The biologist administering first aid to a gut-shot adolescent hunter despite the fresh corpse of a human civilian at its feet. The teenager screaming at Terran medevac teams to save the ones who can still be saved, even as blood dripped from their own shattered arm. This wasn't the narrative anyone expected. Not mercy. Not compassion. Especially not for the hunters. When pressed, the Terran ambassador to the Galactic Council simply played another recording, this one from before the dropships launched. A human voice, ragged with pain but terrifyingly calm. *, we don't kill because it's easy. We kill because it's necessary. Remember the difference. *, the lesson sank deeper than any weapon could. On 𝗕𝗲𝘀 4, former prey species children played unafraid in open streets for the first time in generations. Their parents kept one eye on the sky, waiting for the other shoe to drop. It never did. Human patrol ships appeared where expected, vanished when unneeded. Their presence wasn't occupation, it was punctuation. A full stop at the end of an era. Back on Terra, ash blossoms swirled around the memorial as day broke. Dawn light caught the 4 remaining names, *Vargas, R, // Petrov, D, // Amari, S, // Leong, J, *, burning them momentarily gold before fading to steel. Somewhere beyond the system's edge, a Terran warship adjusted its course. Not toward battle. Not toward conquest. Toward home. The galaxy exhaled. Humanity never did. The galaxy held its breath for the next human move. Armadas didn't mobilize. Borders didn't close. Instead, Terran science vessels began appearing at ravaged worlds, their hulls marked not with weapons but with the double helix emblem of the Xenobiology Reconciliation Initiative. On the broken moon of 𝗕𝗲𝘀 Prime, a human medic knelt in the radioactive dust, administering gene therapy to a species the 𝗦𝗲𝘀 had driven to the edge of extinction. The medic's gloves were too large for the frail alien children, so she worked barehanded, carefully pressing regeneration patches against their atrophied limbs. Galactic observers noted how her fingers never trembled, not even when the security feed caught the moment a dying elder spat acidic venom across her face. She wiped her ruined cheek with a bloodied sleeve and kept working. The footage went supernova across the datanets. Meanwhile, the engineer from 𝗦𝗲𝘀-9, now wearing a Terran Academy uniform 2 sizes too big, stood before the Galactic Reconstruction Committee and presented schematics for atmospheric scrubbers. Not as tribute. Not as reparations. As open-source technology. When the 𝗦𝗀𝘀 representative asked why, the kid didn't smile. Didn't blink. Just said, *, dead planets can't learn. *. The words became a rallying cry. On the industrial world of Vexus, former 𝗦𝗲𝘀 slave drivers found themselves working alongside Terran engineers. Not as prisoners. Not as overseen laborers. As equals. Human crews ate the same nutrient paste, slept in the same cramped bunks. When a reactor threatened to melt down, it was a scarred human veteran who shoved a 𝗦𝗲𝘀 technician out of the radiation zone first. Security feeds showed the 𝗦𝗲𝘀's mandibles trembling as they carried the burned human to the medbay. Back on Terra, the memorial's ash blossoms had taken root, spreading across the plaza in fractal patterns. Visitors noticed something new. 6 𝗦𝗀 names now appeared on the monument's shadowed side. Not carved. Not etched. But formed from the negative space between human names, visible only at certain angles in certain lights. No one knew who authorized it. When questioned, the surviving Marine just stared at the questioner until they looked away. The galaxy was beginning to understand. Humanity didn't forgive. Didn't forget. But they remembered differently. On the 1-year anniversary of 𝗦𝗲𝘀-9, the Terran warships finally powered down their primary weapons arrays. Not in surrender. Not in defeat. In observation. The message was clear. We're still watching. We're still here. Try us. No one did. The silence was the most unsettling part. A full galactic cycle had passed since 𝗕𝗲9, and humanity still hadn't claimed their spoils. No territory demands. No resource tithes. Just that endless, watchful quiet as Terran observation drones floated at the edges of every major system. Their lenses glowed faintly in the dark, unblinking, patient. On the rebuilt 𝗕𝗲𝘀 homeworld, former hunters moved through their days with a new tension in their limbs. They'd learned to spot the signs: a shadow that lingered too long at the edge of a crowd, a comm signal that dropped for precisely 3 seconds before restoring itself. No overt threats. No visible enforcers. Just the inescapable knowledge that every transmission, every public space, every whispered conversation existed under silent scrutiny. The galaxy called it the human ceiling, an invisible boundary no species dared push against. On the ice world of 𝗕𝗲, a Ullian crime syndicate made the mistake of auctioning off captured Terran medical supplies. The security feeds showed 12 armed traffickers collapsing simultaneously, neural implants overloading before they could fire a shot. When local authorities arrived, they found the stolen supplies neatly stacked beside unconscious bodies, and a single Terran combat knife buried to the hilt in the auction block. No demands. No explanations. Just a message carved into the knife's grip in 37 languages. *Don't. Meanwhile, the biologist from 𝗕𝗲9 surfaced on a dying agricultural colony, elbow-deep in contaminated soil samples. When asked why Terrans bothered saving worlds that had cheered their slaughter, she didn't pause her work. "We're not saving you," she said, scraping alien fungus into a vial. "We're saving the things that come after you." The words spread faster than the cure she developed. Back in council space, diplomats noted a shift. Species that had once jockeyed for dominance now hesitated before aggressive moves. Trade disputes settled faster. Border skirmishes died mid-battle. The change wasn't out of kindness, but because every war room now contained the same unspoken calculation. What will the humans do? On Terra itself, the memorial plaza had grown wild with ash blossoms. Visitors noticed new additions, not names, but coordinates. Latitudes and longitudes burned into the stone, marking every hunting ground, every slave outpost, every mass grave the 𝗕𝗲𝘀 had left behind. No explanations. No guided tours. Just coordinates. And the silent understanding that someone, somewhere, was checking each one. The engineer, now lead researcher at the Orbital Reconciliation Institute, was once asked if humanity would ever forgive. They laughed. Not cruelly. Not kindly. Just a laugh that made the questioner's blood freeze. When the first 𝗕𝗲𝘀 children's choir was invited to sing at the memorial's anniversary, the galaxy held its breath. The humans didn't applaud. Didn't weep. Just stood perfectly still as the young voices stumbled through a Terran requiem. Afterward, each child received a single white ash blossom. No instructions. No speeches. Just flowers that turned to dust within hours. The message was clear. We see you. We remember. Now prove you're different. And for the first time in galactic history, everyone did.